allowing you to be a passenger. My first dollar ride was July 7th. When I got out to the plane, by mistake they'd assigned 2 of us to go as their dollar ride, and there was only 1 extra oxygen outlet, so we flipped a coin and the other guy went. They didn't come back. So I started right there being a chicken. I was scared to death. When I flew, my next dollar mission was July 11th, my birthday. Happy birthday, Dexter, you're going to Munich. And that was a great experience. We bombed an airfield outside of Munich, a few miles, and I could look over and watch the planes going into Munich. My God, there was a lot of flak and stuff, and I thank the good Lord for not sending me there. The next morning I had to take my crew on their mission, take the whole bunch. Munich, downtown, not at the airport. I tell you, gang, I started out so damn scared I didn't know what was going on. When I got back from that mission, it was 9 hours and 20 minutes, and we pulled into the revetment, and I gunned the outside engine to turn the plane around for the next day, and we ran out of gas, so another nail in my fear coffin. We went on, flew a few missions, and we went on a pass for 2 days, and when we came back, why, the first thing the pilot would do would go out and be sure the plane that had been assigned to him was ready for the next day. Another crew had flown that plane while we were gone, and they didn't come back. Boy, I thought the handwriting was on the wall, but there was nothing I could do. It was at that time that they issued me a brand spanking new plane, and because it was new, I got to name it, and I named it after my wife, probably one of the only smart things I did during the war. Sure made her happy. My crew chief, I had named it Princess Pat, and during the night he put in big block letters above Princess Pat the word pugnacious. He says, that looks more like a fighting name than Princess Pat. Well, I had learned quickly, do what your crew chief wants you to do, because that's the guy who kept you alive, so that stayed the name. I went through training with a fellow from Iowa. His last name started with the initial DL, mine DE, so we have a serial number just 1 number apart. And as we would complete training, we'd go to the commanding officer and say, sir, you know, we're a pretty good team, our wives get along beautifully together, we'd like to be assigned together to the next base. And believe it or not, that happened to every base we went to. I got him kept as an instructor pilot at Libro. He went to radar camp, and when we got overseas, went into the commanding officer and got each other assigned to the same base, so we could kind of keep track of each other. We had, excuse me, code names, and we'd, you know, over Germany, somebody hear this voice, hey, Blue Fox, how you doing? Okay, Red Dog, or whatever it might have, we called each other, so we kept track of each other even over Germany. We got together after a few missions and said, what the hell can we do to maybe stay alive through this deal? You know, because it's all luck. But you did, one thing you gotta do is fly good formation, because if you did, the German planes would stay away from you and pick the group that wasn't flying good formation and attack them. Also, if the flak was missing, it was missing low and back normally. So we decided to fly the high right element, leading 3 planes off the lead plane of the squadron. And that turned out to be a pretty good move, except for one little minor thing we hadn't figured out. And that was the plane you flew off of was downhill. here, and the co-pilot was over there, and he couldn't see those planes. So you had to fly 100% of the time. The co-pilot could never fly when you were on a mission. That made it a little hard too. We did go to, when they had practice missions in England, we did fly that high ride element, so the lead plane commander would ask for his element leads, and we got picked for that most of the time. Probably the roughest place that we went was Hamburg, where it was reported that they had over 600 guns that could fire at you. And I'll tell you, it got pretty black up there. They produced their own black clouds over Germany with all that flak. When I started, the goal was 25 missions. After 14 missions, they sent us on what they call a flak leave, and we got to go to some castle in England, live there in civilian clothes, and go to town and sample all of the beverages and so on. And got really relaxed and came back, and they told us, well, while you were gone, they raised the missions total from 25 to 30. That took care of all any relaxation we had. Then when I came home from my 29th mission, only one more to go, and baby was back home, and found out they'd raised it to 35. And I got a little clue for you. I was having breakfast with our Catholic chaplain, who was just a great guy. They called him Old White Flack. And I was trying to get the coffee cup up to my mouth to take some coffee, because they did it to me with raising those missions another 5. And he excused himself and came back and he said, Dexter, I got good news for you. You don't have to fly anymore. You can't take a crew out with your nerves shot like that. And again, I made one of my brilliant decisions. I was not going to go home and have to tell my wife and family and friends that I quit. So I said, don't worry about it, Father. I'll make the other missions. And so I agreed to fly to 35, and my reward for that was my next to last mission. They sent us to Hamburg again. On the way home from my last mission, we're letting down. We're at about 15,000 feet over the coast of France at the channel there, and there was either a barge boat or a railroad car with anti-aircraft guns on it. Just out of the clear blue sky right now, there was flak just surrounding us. And how they missed us the first time, I don't know, but I didn't give them a second chance. I just peeled off and went down to sea level all the rest of the way home. And that probably saved my life too. When I got back the next day through my 35th mission, or I mean that day when I got back, I'd flown my 35th mission, and we had a young colonel, 25-year-old bird colonel, and I went to him and I said, Colonel, can I have your private phone number? He said, what the hell are you talking about? I said, well, I need your number because, baby, I'm leaving. And I'll call you once a day, and if you got me on orders to go home, I'll come back. But I'm not going to tell you where I am. You're not going to raise that total to 40. And as you probably know, when you were done with your missions, you could get away with a lot of stuff, and he let me away with that, and I did leave and go and stay with a pilot buddy at another base until I got word when I called him, you can come back, you're going home. When I came back, I was assigned to the headquarters of the Army Air Force Training Command in Fort Worth, Texas, and I had the job as working with the quartermasters. I had a desk and a secretary and absolutely no knowledge of what I was doing. And my only job really was that when somebody had to go to a meeting someplace, I flew them there. That was tough duty, I'll tell you. Coming back from one of those excursions, I had a problem. We were cleared at CABU, and but we ran into clouds of front buildup, and we couldn't get over it. And so we called down and told them down below that we couldn't get over the clouds and we'd have to go on instruments. And after a while I called down and I said, hey, my gas gauges are indicating I've only got about an hour's fuel left. Now I knew I was supposed to have more, but I didn't get a chance to go out in the wing and drop a stick in there or anything. I had to believe that gauge. So finally I had to call down and say, I gotta come down now. I can't be fooling around letting down. We were at 11,000 feet at that time. Unbeknownst to me, below us was a plane of guys from Washington going to a FAA meeting in Oklahoma City where we were trying to get to. And when I announced I had to come down, they chased those planes to their alternate airport, which did not thrill those guys that were supposed to be going to a meeting in Oklahoma City. And they raised hell and threatened to the court-martial. Unfortunately, the general in charge of the headquarters said that the pilot acted exactly as I would have under these circumstances, and that dropped everything. And it was only a day or two later that I got word that I had enough points to go home. And I didn't ask them for any more flights or anything. I'll give you a clue. So I actually went on terminal leave, came home and was on terminal leave for about 3 months before I got my separation from service and put on inactive duty. And by the way, I have never been discharged. I am separated from active duty and on inactive duty. I'm not getting a hell of a lot of pay, but thank God I'm not young, so they can't call me back to do something. As I said at the beginning of this little chat, I have a terrible feeling of people might think I'm trying to sound vain, and I sure as hell am not, because I admire the guys like Wes and Don Zupan and those others of you that were prisoners of war and had to bail out of your planes. Of course, if you'd have been smart enough to fly a B-24, that wouldn't have happened.
Hey, what happened to Norm? What happened to Norm?
Norm, well, I don't know. He wasn't thinking very clear when he died. Well, that's more than I should have talked, I guess, but I thank you for listening, and thank God for this group. It's so much fun to be a part of it.
I told you before, and I'll tell you again. When I graduated from navigation school, they asked me what I wanted to go into. Mediums or heavies? And I said heavies. They said 24s or 17s. I said 24s. I chose my airplane.